time to enter the world of shaky cam.
One, two, three!
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with episode 4 of my Halloween Horror Movie Review Season 3. And for this episode is going to be set for a film that was released at the very end of the 90s. A film that brought up a new kind of genre for horror, revolutionized around the 2000s. And that film is going to be for none other than 1999 sleeper hit, The Blair Witch Project, the first found footage movie to be released in theaters worldwide. So anyway, what's the plot of this? Well, in search of a local legend, 3 bold amateur documentaries, director Heather, cameraman Josh, sound recorder Mike, hike into Burgettsville gloomy Black Hill Forest to find a shadow, the fabled Blair Witch. Now, one long year later, after that fateful October of 1994, there's still no sign of the student filmmakers apart from the raw footage they left behind. Who knows what truly happened during their creepy 5-day journey into the mouth of madness? Was there, indeed, an intangible supernatural presence in the dark woods that led to the team's disappearance? Either way, the missing trio must have seen something. Could the nightmarish myth be real? Well, so how was this film made? Well, development of the Blair Witch Project began in 1993, while film students at the University of Central Florida, Daniel Merck and Eduardo Sanchez, were inspired to make the film after realizing that they found documentaries on paranormal phenomena scarier than traditional horror films. The two decided to create a film that combined the styles of both. In order to produce the project, they, along with Greg Hell, Robin Cowie, and Michael Monolo, started Haxon Films. The namesake for the production company is Benjamin Christensen's 1992-style documentary horror film Haxon. Merrick and Sanchez developed a 35-page screenplay for their fictional film, intending dialogue to be improvised. The directors placed a casting call advertisement in Backstage in June 1996, asking for actors with strong improvisational abilities. The informal improvisational audition process narrowed the pool of 2,000 actors. According to lead actress Heather Donahoe, auditions for the film were held at a musical theater works in New York City. The advertisement said a completely improvised feature film would be shot in a wooden location. Donahoe said that during the audition, American Sanchez posed her the question that she served 7 years of a 9-year sentence. Why would they let her out on parole? To which she pretty much had to respond. Joshua Leonard said that he was cast due to his knowledge of how to run a camera, and no ominous camera was used to film the scenes. So anyway, after the Blair Witch Project was shot, marketed, or barely marketed anyways, and released into theaters to the public, it first premiered at the Sundance Film Festival at midnight on January 23rd, 1999, and its promotional marketing campaign listed the actors as either missing or deceased. Owing to its successful run at Sundance, Arms Entertainment bought the film's distribution rights to $1.1 million, and originally had a limited release on July 14th, 1999, before expanding to a wider release starting on July 30th, 1999. While critical reception was mostly positive, audience reception was split. However, that did not stop the movie from surprisingly making a huge profit of over $248 million worldwide on a budget of only $60,000. And as for my reaction, well, I know that Ramble Rat for Life really liked this movie. I know some people really love this movie. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not one of the audiences that is a big fan of this movie. I kind of have found this movie overrated. I mean, come on, guys. It's one of the scariest films ever made. I've seen scary things, and it's not because you just like it when they show the stuff. No, I like it when they don't show anything. But here, I had no idea what on earth was going on. But then again, what can I say? I've never liked the found footage movie genre anyway. The only two found footage movies I've really liked were Record and its sequel Record 2, but that's about it. This is just a film I barely watch. Now, it has a nice idea. I really like the idea, but I just found the characters annoying, and I was hoping they would die at the end of the movie. Because, like, once again, almost everybody calls this movie extremely scary, but I highly disagree. And once again, guys, this is not because... I'm not saying that because they don't show the witch, like the dumb sequel, or there's no gore. No, I'm saying that because all the movie practically is a bunch of teens arguing over a map due to one of them doing what was easily one of the stupidest moves of any horror film by kicking that fucker into the creek. Well, and yes, I know the woods were cursed and that one was technically possessed into kicking into the creek, and even if they did have the map, they'd still die anyway. But still. It hardly needs saying that the Blair's Project sparked a flurry of found footage movies in the first part of the 2000s. Some were good, some just okay, and others were appallingly bad. This film inspired plenty of other horror films to do found footage tropes, like there was Cloverfield, Paranormal Activity, The Last Exorcism, Grave Encounters, I think, even does this. VHS, lots of found footage. Other copycats try to rip this movie success off. Some would work, some would fail. The Blair Witch Project itself is not a brilliant film, but it should be called the pioneer of the genre, which then became a household name because this was a brand new genre nobody knew of. The film does actually work if you consider it to be an experimental art house movie because it is certainly not a mainstream horror movie. In fact, quite a few horror fans will be appalled at the lack of horror in the Blair Witch Project. It's almost all the suspense is suggestive, and be prepared for a film that is non-scripted and contains annoying repeated phased words, very bad camera work, but it kind of goes with the type of film this is, and unprofessional acting. The movie is unpolished because it is supposed to be, as it's amateur in its conception. The main character, Heather, is really annoying, as well as being loud, brash, and bossy, which makes her unrelatable and left me sympathizing more with the other two guys. We're both nastily henpecked. But Mike is also really annoying and unlikable because he's the one that kicks the map in the creek and acts like he did nothing wrong and stuff, and he also just yells and tries to act unfunny every single time, and it's really annoying. So much so, I think they scarbor just to get away from... There's scenes where even the two guys just kind of scarbor just to get away from Heather's whining. But once again, ever since its release back in 1999, Blair Witch Project made history as a cultural horror phenomenon because it utilized the found footage genre without showing so much of what the real horror is. While it did divide audiences back when it came out, the trigger of the film kind of lies a lot more in what we hear rather than what is actually causing hysteria. It's a testament to how divisive the film is when even though what was videotaped did actually happen in real life, or how it's marketed anyways. Just the thought of what lies out in the middle of nowhere is enough to make one feel at ease. And no, this did not happen in real life, guys. They just marketed it that way. And people eventually realized this did not even happen at all. Now, understandably, the film has a pretty simplistic plot. Three young filmmakers seek out the local legend called the Blair Witch, infamously located at the Black Hills near Burkittsville, in 1994. And then they all disappear, and the film plays out as a feature-length collection of raw footage based on what was experienced. And the film definitely does not have a great start, because the leads, once again, come off as more annoying and obnoxious than likable and charming, and not much happens besides some goofing off for the first 20 minutes, and as the film progresses, strange oddities start to occur and slowly heighten the stakes with every passing day. The very idea of being lost in the deep woods can really affect someone mentally, so even without the supernatural aspects, the movie works well in playing with the viewer's expectations with suspenseful tension. Yeah. One other major problem with most found footage movies is that the creatures feared by the cast are either always seen or in our typical environment we're all familiar with. A better way to create paranoia within your horror narrative is by placing your characters somewhere they've never been before. But the decision to have many of the night scenes to be pitch black and out of focus really helps the soundtrack, as all the crazy sounds coming from the area feel all the more terrifying without knowing where they are really coming from. What people hear is more reactionary than what they see, and the filmmakers react so well to what they hear that the audience could be in their shoes as well. Even then, as the film goes on, Heather, Mike, and Josh just do then start to become more relatable, with their ever-growing impatience and frustrations with the whole legend itself, whether it's fake or not, and even towards each other with anger and fear. The more away from civilization you are, kind of less human you'd pretty much become. And the movie also does preys on those all too human emotions, in which the monster behind the door is much more scary when it's unseen. Like for the entire movie, viewers never catch so much of a glimpse of whatever or whoever is causing the strange happenings. It's the ultimate devil you don't know story. Basically, the movie uses numerous means to manipulate the audience into feeling major anxiety, not the least of which it is jerky handy-cam shooting, which can cause mild motion sickness. It's easier to work on our minds with the creepy bump in a night psych, and now it is fine for an indie film to be a one-trick pony. This is not but still, but there were still problems with this. The film could have had more character developments, dump this stupid teenage arguing, high-pitched whining, and constant swearing. Now, I'm not offended by swearing, guys, but the swearing here got old quick. And giving the audience credit for imagination is the best way to get scares, but throw us a visual bone, a blur, a shadow, a distortion, a bush rustling, or something. Blair Witch is an admirable idea, but the directors stick too regularly to their premise. By using one camera, they introduce seasickness into Hollywood. To provoke fear, you often have to create a sense of scale and movement. Think Jaws, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Psycho, to name a few three. Fear is just as much about open spaces and a sense of isolation as it is about dark corners and close-ups. What's really bugged the film industry, and even some of the audience, is that two young filmmakers found a way to dwarf the mega-budget releases of Hollywood with a film that made more money than 90% of Hollywood at the time. And for no more than $30,000. Well, at the time this was released anyways. However, does this mean, now, once again, guys, before you all attack me, I did not say I think the movie's bad. I don't think the movie's great. But there were some scenes I thought were very well shot. And very well filmed and pretty well acted. What I did really like was the apology scene. The way it's shot, where Heather is just sobbing, you see half her face, and she's saying sorry to her family, Josh and Mike's families, because she knows they're pretty much all about, her and Mike are about to die, Josh has already gone missing, is obviously dead, and she knows they're never going to escape and they're all going to die in the woods, and it was very disturbing and very well filmed. And then you have also the final scene of the house is also very haunting. And when the movie actually just starts to finally get scary. But that's about it. Just as the movie finally gets scary, it abruptly ends so quick. That's just so lame. The movie finally got scary, and it just abruptly ends like that. So in the end, The Blair Witch Project is not a horrible movie, but it's mostly just an average film that is entirely worth streaming if you want to see how the found footage genre began in horror in the first place. Anyway, that's it for my review of The Blair Witch Project, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rank The Blair Witch Project, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to look at the start of found footage, then I would easily stream this one online in order to give it a watch. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank the Blair Witch Project, I am going to give the Blair Witch Project a 6 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for the Blair Witch Project, and that wraps up episode 4 of Halloween Horror Movie Reviews 3. So what's going to be for episode 5 next? Well, episode 5 is going to be for a 1977 Wes Craven movie. I reviewed the remake of this back in the first season 2 years ago. And I will show you guys what it is. Yep. Next episode 5, the next episode, is going to be for The Hells Have Eyes. The original version this time. I reviewed the remake 2 years ago. If you want to go check that out, I'll post that in the link below. But until then, guys, that will be it for this episode. Thank y'all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.